Hey guys, it's Bernie here. I just wanted to do a quick video on the end of Dragonflight Season 1. I'm going to go over my Raider.io recap, just look at some of the data, and then we'll talk a little bit at the end about my plans for Season 2 going forward. I'll display this little spreadsheet I've been working on. And yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. See if we can see anything interesting. So here, group with a total of 38 different specs, 38 in Raids and 38 Mythic Plus. I have grouped with every spec this season. As you can see, the most common occurrences tend to be meta classes, so Havoc Demon Hunter, Resto Druid, BM Hunter, Preservation Evoker, and then you've got some of the off meta classes down at the bottom, Assassination Rogue, Survival Hunter, and Frost DK. Didn't see them too often. And this is my gear evolution. My biggest upgrade was a 342 ring to a 443 Onyx Amulet. Well, that's not even correct. That's not even 443. It's 424 right now. But I believe this is like a time walking character. Yeah, it's a time warp piece. It's probably like my DH or something when I leveled it. So this is not totally accurate, but interesting nonetheless. And here we have raid bosses defeated. So looking at total 470 raid bosses, 66 on Mythic, 290 on Heroic, and 114 on Normal. As you can see, like the bulk of these early Mythic kills are killing the first two, which I think a lot of people did because there was a lot of very choice loot on Aranog and Primal Council. You had the ring, and you had the trinket off of Primal Council. So people were obviously angling for those. So those are pretty easy to get into on my alts. I think I did 3 or 4 alts until I had icons. You know, my DK has an icon. My Paladin has a couple pieces from those first two bosses. Didn't spend a whole lot of time in normal. Like here, 19 Aranog kills, 16 Raz kills. And then here you can see some of the progress on Mythic. We only killed Broodkeeper and Dathia once. We unfortunately didn't get a chance to proc on Raz. We're just a little bit slow this tier just because of the our guild had some turnover about a month or two in, and we also delayed for the holidays, so we lost about 3 or 4 weeks of progression. So we opted not to prog on Razageth. And here we've got wipes to first kill. So Razageth Heroic took us 50 pulls. Normal took us 14. And here we have some of our early Mythic pulls. Somehow Aranog took us 19. I don't remember us spending that long. That's kind of embarrassing, actually. That was before some of the leadership changes and some of the slackers left the guild. Primal Council, 14 pulls. Taros took 38. We had a lot of problems on Taros because of healing. Our healing CDs were not set up very well. We had people dying to kind of dumb stuff and just either not using defensives or just healers not CDing properly. Azeroth was 42 pulls, pretty similar. We had problems with people rotting out in the last phase, and we had problems with 4 or 5 people struggling to stay alive on the platform. I think a lot of people are not going to miss this fight. Oh, hopefully we don't have anything like it next tier. And then from Azeroth we went to Kurog. Kurog took us 80 pulls. A lot of the same thing. There's a lot of damage going out. The damage check was pretty tight. We were struggling to heal it. It just took us a long time to memorize the dance properly and to get healing CDs set up so that people weren't dying in those last, especially in the Earth phase when there's a lot of damage going out plus healing absorbs. It's pretty tough. Dathia, we did a Zerg strat, so it only took us 49 pulls. We didn't actually rekill it, just because we struggled on it the 1 week we tried to rekill with alts, and then we kind of just said, screw it, next year's coming out, let's focus on swapping. So this we did a Zerg strat, we only did 1 platform. And we ran 3 healers. I think we ran Holy Paladin, Resto Druid, and Preservation Evoker. I think those were the 3 healers we did. And we had 1 group go up, so like 4 or 5 people went up to the platform with a tank and 1 healer, and then we just zerged the boss down from there. Broodkeeper we really struggled on, 120 pulls. I don't even know if that's accurate, to be honest. I wonder if this is counting resets. It seems really high. I think my Bigwigs actually has it at like a slightly lower number. But I mean, obviously we had problems. We had two Prot warriors. Both of our tanks are like not one trick prots, but pretty much one trick prots. They really like Prot warriors, so they don't like to play other stuff. And we definitely struggled keeping the tanks alive while tanking Brood. Ads were mostly fine. We didn't have a ton of problems on ads. And eggs were mostly fine once the tank got the route down. And of course, we didn't get any pulls on Razageth because we just decided to focus on the next tier. What boss did you have the closest wipe on before your first kill? Mythic Senarth, 0.12% health. I do not remember that wipe. But that sounds awful because we did not have a fun time on that boss. I will not miss that boss at all. I mean, out of these, I gotta say my least favorite, it's gotta be like Senarth and Dathia. They're just both miserable fucking fights and did not enjoy them. My favorite's probably Kurog. I liked Kurog a lot. And I got to do ads on Broodkeeper, so Broodkeeper was okay. We had to chain lightning a lot of mobs. Oh, raid progress duration. Time spent progressing. We cleared normal in 1 reset. That's pretty standard. Heroic took us 7 resets. Now, a lot of this is because of the holidays. I think we took 3 weeks off for Christmas, and the expansion released like late November, so we didn't have a whole lot of time going into the raid to actually progress it before holidays cut us short. So this took us a little longer than we'd liked. Hopefully next tier will be a bit faster. I think we're going to jump off to a better start, I hope. This is my Mythic Key progression. So the season started out December 13th. As you can see, these first few weeks I ended up, mostly at 12s and 13s, and then a week or two later I pushed to 15s and 16s, and then I kind of plateaued for a couple months where I didn't do too much, and I finally broke into 20s about the middle of February. And I didn't go past 21 because I didn't see a point. My personal goal for the season was 2,500 and all the portals because I had never done that before. So I did end up doing that on my shaman. I got 2750 and I got all the portals. I have portals on a bunch of alts. But I think next season we would like to start off at a faster pace. I would like to say I'm doing 16s by the first week. Start getting some of those mythic upgrade tokens to put gear on the mythic upgrade track. And I don't know. I haven't decided yet whether I want to actually push or not. I've had people ask me about it, about trying to do, 24s, 25s, just trying our hand at some of the higher keys. We may do that this season. It depends. I do like playing my alts a lot, so that would be a pretty clear sacrifice in whether I want to play alts or push 1 or 2 characters. Oh, this is the alt screen. You're an altaholic. You run Mythic Plus on a total of 10 classes and 20 specs. My most run spec was Elemental Shaman. So here you can see Elemental Shaman 75 runs, Enhance 68 runs. I did Ellie Shaman for the first, I'd say like month or 2 of the season, and then I realized that I was miserable in keys because Ellie was not very fun. We didn't really pull gigantic groups, and so I couldn't take advantage of uncapped AoE with Earthquake. And so I found that swapping to Enhancement, I performed better. It just got better, 5 target cleave, which is pretty advantageous in dungeons. So I swapped to Enhance midway through the season and finished all my keys as Enhance. And then bringing up the rear, we've got some of my alts. We've got my Blood Death Knight, 52 runs. I think I did him. I think he was my 3rd character, so he was done pretty early, like in the first month, maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks. I do remember running Mythic Zeros, so it would have been week 1 or 2 that I finished him. And I got a couple 20s done on him. I did a couple portals. Frost Mage, 48 runs. I think he was one of my later alts. Maybe 6 or 7. I grinded a bunch of keys on him to get his IO up. I got him to like 2600. Kind of just waited around there. He's 417 item level. The DK and him are both around the same IO, same item level. Paladin was kind of the same story. It was like my 5th alt. I played a lot of Ret because I found Ret fun, and then there was the rework, so Ret is really fun now. And he's about, I think, 417. 25, 50 or something. And we've got my Brewmaster with 38 runs and the Windwalker with 24 runs. I did quite a few keys on the Monk. I liked tanking on the Monk a lot, and Brewmaster just offers a lot of utility. It also does a lot of AoE damage, which I like from a tank. And then now we have my new main here, which is the Rogue, which I've only had for 3 weeks now. He's done 37 runs as sub and 32 as outlaw, so not too bad. I grinded a lot of dungeons. I grinded a shit ton of Valor to try and upgrade all my pieces, which I did get done. And, bringing up the rear, we have my Guardian / Resto Druid, which I had intermittent fun on. My Devastation, which I actually leveled initially, was my first level 70. But after doing Mythic Zeros, I decided I did not want to play him long term because I found the single target to be really uninteresting. We'll put it that way. It's very simplistic, outside of like PI clipping and Dragon Rage, which is a different matter entirely. So I kind of benched him and then went to the Shaman instead. And then we've got my Hunter, 25 runs as Marks. He was fine. I can't say I'm super attached to the class. Resto I did a couple keys as. I've done a couple on my brand new Holy Priest. I think I did, like 1 or 2 as Holy, 1 or 2 as Unholy, 1 Arcane, 1 Fire, and 1 Protection. Like the only thing I don't have on this list is my Vengeance Demon Hunter, which I just leveled to 70, and I have a Warrior that's like in the mid-40s. I may or may not finish him. Don't have a whole lot of interest in playing Warrior. So yeah, you can see the bulk of my keys are on a couple characters that can multi-spec. And top Mythic Plus comp, the group composition you ran keys with the most often. So we've got, Brew, Resto Druid, Balanced Druid, Havoc Demon Hunter, Shadow Priest. I'm actually a little surprised by this because I'm trying to think who I would have ran with for this to be common. I would have been the Brewmaster, but I don't know who these... This probably would have been one of my friends in guild. The Boomkin. I don't know about the other 3 though. It's kind of interesting. But if you look down here at like the meta comps, it's pretty standard across the board. Prot Warrior's the tank, Resto Druid is the healer, Havoc DH, Marks Hunter, Windwalker, Outlaw Rogue. It's like the same 3 or 4 specs every time. Although I would say this has definitely changed. And by the end of the season, especially in high keys, this is probably now Protection Paladin and Resto Shaman instead of Prot Warrior Resto Druid. That's changed quite a bit. Most run dungeons. I did almost 100 Shadow Moon Burial Grounds and 88 Court of Stars. There's a pretty big discrepancy here just because these dungeons were by and large the easiest ones in the pool. And then in the rear, we have 55 Azure Vault and 54 Halls of Valor. We struggled a lot with Azure. A lot of the groups that I ran with in guild, I don't know, things didn't click or we weren't stopping things properly. Our trash pulls were not well thought out until the end of the season. So we had a lot of problems with Azure Vault. I think it was one of my last 20s that I did. We definitely struggled there. We also struggled a lot in Jade. Jade was not a fun one for our group. Closest key, a plus 10 Halls of Valor with 5 seconds. Really, there's nothing under 5 seconds that I have left? It's kind of interesting. Timer left on fastest key, plus 2 Ruby Life Pools with 73%. That's probably just some Valor Farm group with a bunch of overgeared people. Finished a total of 3 keys with less than 15 seconds left. I mean, that's kind of unremarkable. I guess most of my keys weren't close. So, IO score evolution. I ran 543 dungeons across all characters. It's equivalent to 10 days, 2 hours, and 13 minutes worth of Mythic Plus. Yes, not a whole lot to say here. I ran a metric shit ton of dungeons. Probably planning to do the same thing next season. Unsure of how many characters I'm going to take on that. For now, I think it's going to be the Rogue as the main, and then probably the Shaman as the alt. And then I'd ideally like to keep up a ranged alt in case I do have to swap from melee. So either the Shaman goes to Ellie, or I'd play a Priest for Shadow. So those are the 3 characters I'm looking at. I think if I do end up tanking, I am going to try and do like an off-meta tank just for fun. Maybe make a, Zero to Keystone Hero series about it. I think Vengeance DH is probably the candidate for that one. But we will see going forward. And here's my IO score. First week I got the 1270. I got KSM in week 3, 2010, and then it just slowly grew towards Keystone Hero. It took me about a month and a half to get Keystone Hero 2520 right here, and then we just slowly went up to 2750, and this is kind of where it stopped. So may push a little harder next season. We'll see. It kind of depends on how we start out. If we get to a better start and can kind of propel myself to those early 27, 2800 groups, where pugging is actually viable. I think it'd be very doable to get closer to 3K. And Mythic Plus buddies. During Season 1, you push keys with 1,041 other characters. In my top 5, unsurprisingly, these are all guildies. This is the tank that I run with, 165 runs. Him and I run a couple dungeons a week. We like to play together a lot. Even if it's just him and I and we pug the rest, we do a lot. This is our Preservation Evoker. I enjoy playing with him. He's pretty fun and chill. And this is my girlfriend. We do a little bit of dungeons together. She's kind of lost a little interest in the later end of the season, but we did a bunch in the beginning. And then these 2 are actually the same person. He's an altaholic like me. He plays 5 or 6 characters pretty well. So I guess it's no surprise that I see him twice on this list. I'm kind of interested to see who all ends up on this list in Season 2, because our key group has changed a little bit since then. And that is it for the Raider.io recap. So now I'm going to bring up my spreadsheet that I've been working on. I actually got this idea from a YouTube streamer. His name is Metro. He plays a Blood DK, and he pugs to around, I think, 3,000. He might be a little above 3,000 right now. But he's a pretty successful pug player. I like watching him a lot because he's very chill, and he pugging, you get a lot of the unexpected. He really takes things on the chin, and I think he's just a fun guy to watch, and that's kind of how I learned Blood DK, was watching him. And I noticed at one of the seasons he had this giant spreadsheet of him and all the keys he's ran and the reasons that they failed, and then he'd include clips from his stream and whatnot. I thought that was super interesting, and as someone who likes data a lot, I figured I would do one for myself. And so this is what I've been working on. As you can see, the columns here got the date, my character name, the dungeon, the level, and then the affixes. They're just drop downs here. You just select them. I tried to color code them as best as I could to keep them distinct. And then we have the affix bucket 1, and then affix bucket 2, which these have the updated versions in it. I'll actually have to change these 2 colors. I think they're too similar. And then we've got the result of the key, which is time, deplete, or abandoned. And then we have the comp, which is tank, healer, and the 3 DPS. Any info, if there was something interesting that happened, or why the key was timed, or why it wasn't. Any standout information. And then ideally, I'd like to include either video or a link to the stream that it occurred during. So my plan is definitely to stream more and to keep recording more. That way I can get more of this on here. And then by the end of the season, we'll do another video like this where I go over my Raider.io recap, but also go over my spreadsheet. Maybe I can split those up depending on how long it is, but I just think it'd be pretty interesting to go over, and I like looking at data personally, so this could be something really cool. And again, I got this idea from Metro. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. Feel free to go check him out. I think he streams on YouTube a couple times a week. Pretty cool guy. Would recommend. And then, yeah, I guess just going forward, I'll reiterate my plans for Season 2. And it's going to be definitely getting... I'd like to get past Keystone Hero this time. I don't know if I want to get 3K, but I'd like to at least meet my Season 1 goal, or Season 1 equivalent, rather, which is 2750. I'd like to get portals on everything, so 20s across the board, which should be very doable, I think, with my experience I've gained this tier. And we'll kind of evaluate things and see how that goes on the dungeon front. In terms of raid, our guild is shooting for cutting edge, for sure. We got 7 of 8 this tier with a bit of a bumpy ride, so now that we've kind of ironed things out, our roster is way, way stronger. Definitely looking to get cutting edge this tier. And that's going to have to be, we'll see how that goes. The dungeon, or the raid looks really interesting. Some of the bosses look pretty cool and difficult. And there's also more bosses this tier than last, so our hands are definitely full. But I am really looking forward to 10.1. I stream on Twitch a couple times a week, twitch.tv/Veronix, VERONYX. Feel free to give me a follow. Come check out the stream. I'll be pumping out a bunch of content in 10.1. I plan to be streaming and YouTubing as much as possible. So, I'd love to see you guys around. Leave any questions you have in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.